Um, this is the Metro public meeting for potential service changes scheduled to begin August 13th. And Alicia, I don't know if you want to say a few words here before we get rolling.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Alicia Johnson. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the Director of Civil Rights and Inclusion at Metro. And I am glad for you all to be tuning in and looking forward to the discussion. If you would like to turn on closed captions, we do have them enabled. So you can just click on the three dots that say more, and then click on captions, and then show captions. You can also hide them if you, in that same order, if you do not wish to have the captions turned on. Thank you all for joining us.
Yep, and we'll try to keep it pretty informal. So if anybody has questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask as we're presenting. You can also type questions into the chat, and we have several other staff members online here who can help answer those as we go. But with that, we'll kind of begin rolling through the different improvements that we have scheduled for later this summer. So these are, excuse me, potential changes that we're looking at for August of this year. And I'll just start from top to bottom and kind of roll through these. The first one, and probably the largest change, is increasing service on Route 4 during the middle of the day. Route 4 goes from downtown to Westroads Mall and travels along Maple Street and Cumming in that stretch. Currently, it runs every 15 minutes during rush hour and during the middle of the day. So from about 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., it runs every 30 minutes. And so we're proposing to increase that to every 15 minutes during midday as well. Part of that change, anyone who's familiar with our system probably knows that the Route 4 currently, if you stay on that bus, once it comes downtown, it'll turn into Route 30, which is called an interline. And it's also during rush hour interlined with Route 16 serving the airport. So it's kind of a puzzle when we make changes to one. Usually it corresponds with the changes to other routes. So in this case, during the midday periods, we'll be changing that interline to Route 11 and Route 30, which again, for many customers is probably not a noticeable change. But for those that do choose to stay on board and ride the next trip, they would be connecting to a new route. So we want people to be aware of that. It'll also increase the recovery or the break time between trips for Route 11, which will have a good impact on reliability and on-time performance for that route. For routes 15 and 55, we're adding one evening trip on Route 15. Those two routes also are interlined. So it'll take a trip from Route 55 that had been going from Exarban Transit Center directly to the garage, and it will keep that bus in service as Route 15. Route 16, like I said, is the one serving downtown to the airport and then on to some businesses in North Omaha. That will have a couple of trips added to it, a total of 3, extending the rush hour. So right now the route goes from about 6 to 8 in the morning and then from 3 to 6 p.m. And so we're extending the morning service a little bit later and starting the afternoon service a little bit earlier. And again, that's in conjunction with, because it's tied to Route 4 and Route 30, all of those routes are kind of grouped together in those improvements. Route 30, again, the interline change with the 11 is really the only difference, as well as that additional break time between trips. So we should see some reliability improvements there. And also with Route 24, we are looking to make some schedule adjustments to improve the on-time performance of that route. So individual arrivals will fluctuate by a minute or 2 at the most, and many customers may not even notice the difference, but we're hoping that the net change will allow our buses to be more consistently on time. Another reroute that we have is for our expresses 93, 94, 97, and 98 as they go into downtown. And we've got a map here to illustrate that. So today, these 4 routes each go through downtown slightly different, but we want to clean up the routing so that all of them follow the same path. So the morning trip is shown in orange. So it will exit the interstate, come down Douglas, and we do have currently a stop at 28th and Douglas that we're proposing to remove. It's not highly utilized, and the placement is a little bit awkward with the driver making a turn around that corner in usually some busy morning traffic. So removing that stop will improve safety, but still allow access on a variety of other stops. We are proposing to add a new stop at 14th and Douglas to accommodate passengers that are trying to get off there during construction of the downtown tower. We had to relocate that stop a little bit. We also are adding a new stop at 12th and Capitol to accommodate kind of a growing area of our downtown. So all these routes will follow the same path: Douglas to 10th Street, up to Capitol, west to 16th, and then return to the garage via Cumming Street. The afternoon trip will follow the pattern shown in blue. So pretty much the same thing in reverse, coming to 16th, to Capitol, down to 10th, and then Dodge Street all the way out to 30th, and then around and under Dodge to get on the interstate. And a lot of these improvements tie back to our strategic plan of Metro Next, which outlined certain goals that we were looking to achieve by 2030. So goals that were mentioned in that plan include increasing frequency on our core system. So the midday service on Route 4 was part of that proposal. And so we're glad to be able to roll that out now. We also heard from many of our customers about increasing evening and weekend service. So over the past year or two, we've made several improvements to evening and weekend service, and the additional trip on Route 15 does help us accomplish that goal. We also, as part of our long-term plan, want to expand service to Eppley Airport. So the increased trips that we're starting in August help us work towards that goal of 7 days a week service to that area. And this slide here just kind of covers all that same content in Spanish. We wanted to make that available. We will be posting a Spanish recording. So for folks that are looking for that, it'll be upcoming. Anytime we make a major change, we want to examine the impacts of our system and how it affects low-income and minority communities. So the charts on the slide here show the amount of service operated as of April of this year. So our current system compared to the proposed system shown in that teal color. And this lists each route on the side and then the amount of mileage operated on each route in each week. So Route 4 is the biggest increase by 21%, followed by Route 16 getting an 8% increase in service. Route 55 is losing service by 3.4%. And again, that's just a trip that runs from Exarban Transit Center to the garage. Typically, that's a trip that there's no customers on board. It's just the end of the night for that bus. But it shows up here as what appears to be a more significant loss of service. So just wanted to make sure we explain that. Everything else is pretty minor in the 1% realm. And so those are a lot of the smaller adjustments to mileage that do accumulate. So overall, this does result in about a 2.2% increase to our weekly service. And so we wanted to explore a little bit closer how that impacts minority and low-income communities. So the charts in teal show the split between minority populations and what's designated in the census as non-minority. So both of them see an increased amount of service. Minority populations increased by 5.05%, and non-minority populations increased by 5.99%. And so we do have what we call a Title VI policy, which is through guidance provided by the Federal Transit Administration. And our policy locally allows for the difference between these two percentages to be up to 15% apart. And so we're well within that allowance. And so the finding is that there's no disparate impact on minority communities. And then for our low-income analysis, we see that low-income neighborhoods are seeing a 5.74% increase in service, and non-low-income neighborhoods are seeing a 5.53% increase in service. Again, very close to each other. Does show that we don't have any disproportionate burden on low-income communities. And this is just part of the process that we look at to make sure that as we adjust our system and make changes, that we want to create a system that's more and more equitable to our community. So that's really all we had today. We're happy to answer any questions. There's also multiple ways that you can get in touch with us. We'll be taking this information to our board later this month. And if it's approved, then we would move forward with launching that service on August 13th. So any questions?
Evan?
Hi.
Hi. I have two quick questions, and this was great, and you explained it all really well. One question is, there was some talk on Twitter recently, and Twitter is obviously not necessarily users or people who have given feedback, but they were talking about how Metro should have holiday service because people were really frustrated that there wasn't holiday service. Is that a potential change in the future for Metro, or are there talks about that at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing it up. So we have kind of looked at holiday service over the years, and there's many other cities that offer that. They'll run like a Sunday schedule or some sort of reduced schedule, even on, Christmas Day, 4th of July, all those types of days, so that we can still serve the community that depends on us. It is something that we are looking at and that we're interested in, but we also are trying to balance that with, staff that wants to also be off and with their families on a holiday. So it's probably a longer term effort that we're looking to. So any changes like that would have to be incorporated into a union contract. And so those typically come up once every 3 years. So we can definitely continue exploring that topic. But yeah, it's not as simple as just turning it on. Though we would definitely like to provide better service on holidays.
Okay, that's super helpful. And can I ask one more question? I took the survey and participated in that. Did you guys have, when you're promoting these public meetings, are you guys posting that on buses for users? Like, are they notified of these public meetings? How are you promoting these?
Yeah, so we sent out information to a lot of our community partners, as well as all our social media channels. We did have printed alerts that went out on the buses. So trying to promote it, we've got several different meeting options. And so this is the only virtual one, but some of our riders came to a downtown public meeting yesterday that was maybe a little bit more central to where a lot of our routes connect. So really our goal is to just provide lots of options for people to engage. We'll also post this recording on our website for those that just want to get the information after the fact. So yeah, we always try to provide multiple options and outreach opportunities so that we can inform riders before things change.
Awesome. I appreciate all your answers. Thanks, Evan.
Sure. Yep. Thank you.
There was a question in the chat and Nicole answered it, but I thought I'd read it for the sake of the recording and for everyone else.
Thank you.
So the question from Georgia was, what was the reason for today's decrease in services? And our colleague Nicole, who's the Senior Manager of Communications and Community Relations, responded and said, "Hi, Georgia, a construction crew cut an underground power line, cutting off power to our building and garage. A good chunk of our fleet is fueled using technology that requires power. We did manage to get power restored overnight and had our crew who were able to get all of our buses on the road this morning for full service." And then Georgia just said, "Thank you."
Perfect. Thanks, Alicia. All righty. Well, we will probably continue to hang out in case anyone joins late, and we can just kind of roll through the same content. For our in-person meetings, they all are about an hour long, and it's just a open house format. So people will trickle in, we'll run through the same content again. And so we'll probably continue to be available for anyone who may join the virtual meeting late. But by all means, if you feel like your questions have been answered, no need to stick around. But this is also a format that you can ask about anything. So if there's any transit related questions on your mind, now's your chance.